so two things. It's all the same. I mean, the trust buys it down to zero over time, but it's a 25, 30-year glide path. And, you know, I'm not sure what article you read, but that's, you know, I guess the print media only has, I mean, it's a 30-some page bill. I'm not sure if they can encapsulate it in 2 or 3 columns or whatever, right? But it does buy it down to zero. On the negative years, and again, we have that sales tax mechanism. So state revenues have to hit a certain amount on the sales tax. I think 3%. If it doesn't hit that, then the trust just builds up and you build more capital. So, I mean, I think it's a really, like I said again, it's the first nation type of way to go about doing it. And I mean, speaking of newspapers, apparently a lot of Iowans like that idea as well too, because the Des Moines Register did a poll last week and 62% of Iowans favor a glide path to zero in the manner we prescribed as opposed to a mass tax cut and shift, or a tax shift.
Yeah, and I'll weigh in a little bit on that. I mean, it's a not a novel concept, if you will, but whenever we have, since I've been back, looked at tax cuts, we use projections 5, 6 years out. I mean, we try to be very, very realistic about what we're doing. And you have to build in some things you know that are going to happen. For example, because of COVID, next year, some of the federal funding for Medicaid is going to go away. It's going to cost the state about $250 million to make up that change. So when we got rid of all your retirement income, and if we don't tax Social Security, we don't tax your inheritance anymore, and we moved over a period of years to 3.9%, that's based on projection 5 or 6 years out, and those numbers all work. And then if you do it 5 or 6 years out, and if you have a downturn, you have a chance to react to it. Well, the REC just yesterday, again, affirmed, and they take into account all those taxes being cut, all of it is in there. They're saying we're still growing in a positive way. So we try to be very judicial what we're doing. You can't say you're going to turn into Kansas, or you can't say you're not going to be able to fund anything. If you add up the teacher salary money, the SSA, and so on this year, the increase to public schools will be about 5%. So we're able to do that with the taxes coming down. So the proposal that's out there is the right one for anybody in here on IPERS like myself. IPERS is a self-sustaining fund. It's the 8th best in the nation, and you don't get benefits unless the fund works. So to take our fund and make a trust fund, and it would only decrease your state income tax, maybe like Dan said, at 10, only if the money's there. So it doesn't affect the rest of your budget. So I think it's a prudent way to look at it. And over a period of years, you may reduce the income tax from there. But we're not doing anything right now that I look at least 5, 6 years out that would jeopardize the funding for the state.
I'll weigh in just very briefly. It's interesting. I've had to sit in on 2 fairly long form tax forums with Senator Dawson, and he does a great job, and I don't envy him. This is from somebody that when I joined the legislature 2 years ago, and they asked me my committee assignments, I said, you can put me anywhere you want, just please don't put me on Ways and Means, because I just don't want to sit around and talk tax code all day. So you can imagine. But I think my 30,000 foot position on this would be that none of us like taxes. It's clear, but we all like to live in a functioning society, roads, schools, hospitals, firefighters, police officers. And it does seem to be pretty clear that the governor's idea, at some point, she would like to see this moved away from any sort of state income tax. The difference, I would say, is that Iowa, unlike some of the other states that have done it, Florida and South Dakota, is we don't have this huge influx of tourism dollars. And so ultimately, where is this going to, where's the funding going to come from? And ultimately, I think it's pretty clear to me, is that you're going to have to raise property taxes, or at the very least, you're going to have to raise sales tax. And it is true that sales tax is the most regressive form of taxation. It puts a higher burden on the poor and on the middle class. And ultimately, I think we're all starting to feel this divide between rich and poor. We're really moving to kind of like a have and have-nots. And I think we need to do a better job of taxing corporations or those with means. But look, none of us like taxes, but it is a necessary evil. We have to pay for these services for us to live in an organized, civilized society. And that's my position.